Jack was sitting in a bar with his longtime friend Mike when the conversation took an unexpected turn. They were laughing and sharing stories from the past as they always did, until Mike, with a mischievous look and a sly smile, leaned towards Jack and proposed a challenge that would make anyone raise an eyebrow. "Jack, I dare you to marry a woman who isn't what you're used to. Forget what society expects. Forget appearances. I dare you to marry a woman who is overweight." Jack's laughter died in his throat. He looked at Mike, expecting him to explain or say it was a joke. But Mike remained serious, his gaze fixed on Jack's eyes, as if waiting for an answer he knew wouldn't come right away. Jack tried to laugh, but it came out nervous, forced. "You've got to be kidding, Mike. What would I gain from that? What's the point of this challenge?" Mike, without losing his composure, calmly replied, "You've always been the guy who pursued perfection, who wanted the whole package, beauty, status, all of that. But what if you're missing something important by focusing only on those things?" "I'm serious, Jack. So what do you say? Do you have the guts to take on this challenge?" Jack felt the weight of the proposal. Part of him was intrigued, even curious, but another part resented the idea. He had always taken pride in his choices, in maintaining a certain standard. Being challenged to go against that made him uncomfortable. But there was something in the way Mike spoke, something that suggested there was more at stake than it seemed. He thought for a few minutes, the sound of the bar fading away as he reflected. Pride, vanity, the fear of being judged by others. All of these thoughts swirled in his mind, but at the same time, there was a small voice inside him, a voice he rarely listened to, whispering, "What if this changes your life? What if you discover something you never imagined?" Finally, Jack took a deep breath and looked Mike in the eyes. "All right, Mike, I accept your challenge." Mike smiled, satisfied. "I knew you wouldn't let me down, Jack. Let's see where this takes you." And so, with a handshake and a heart full of doubts, Jack embarked on a journey that he didn't yet realize would forever change the way he saw the world. On the day of the date, Jack sat at a cafe table nervous, his fingers drumming on the surface as he tried to calm his racing heart. He still couldn't believe he had accepted that challenge. Mike's words echoed in his mind, and the anticipation mixed with an uncomfortable feeling. When she walked in, Jack took a sip of his coffee and held his breath. Emily, as she introduced herself, was a woman with a commanding presence. Her brown hair cascaded in waves around her face, and her smile lit up the room. But what caught Jack's attention most was the confidence she radiated. She wore a floral dress that made her seem at ease, as if she was ready to conquer the world. However, shortly after that first impression, a wave of insecurity washed over Jack. "What am I doing here?" he thought. His mind started racing, comparing her to the women he used to date. He remembered every perfect face, every sculpted body, and wondered if Emily was really what he was looking for. There was something uncomfortable about the way he was judging her, and he tried to push those thoughts away. "Hi, you must be Jack," she said, approaching the table with genuine enthusiasm. "Sorry I'm late, the traffic was terrible." He looked up and, for the first time, felt a warmth in his chest. The way she spoke with contagious energy made his anxiety ease a little. "No problem. I just got here," he replied, forcing a smile that felt a bit nervous. As the conversation progressed, Jack began to notice details he hadn't seen before. The sparkle in Emily's eyes when she talked about her passions, the way her hands moved as she shared stories of her adventures. Every word she spoke revealed a depth he hadn't expected to find. Her laughter was joyful, and for a moment Jack found himself smiling without even realizing it. However, doubt still lingered in his mind. Is this how it's supposed to be? Insecurity told him he should still worry about what others would think. There was an echo of imagined laughter and whispers in his head. But as he looked at Emily, he noticed that behind her strong presence was a vulnerability that made her even more real. The way she spoke about her struggles with stereotypes and the challenges she faced made Jack reconsider his own perspective. The first impression he had formed slowly began to change, but the internal struggle persisted. This is just a challenge, right? He tried to convince himself, while a part of him was already wondering if it could be more than that. and when Emily looked directly into his eyes, he felt an unexpected connection that completely disarmed him, making him question everything he had believed until then. As days turned into weeks, Jack and Emily continued to meet frequently. Each encounter revealed a new facet of the woman he was beginning to know, and the initial image he had of her started to fade, giving way to something deeper. One sunny afternoon, as they walked through the park, Emily stopped to admire a lush tree, full of flowers just beginning to bloom. She looked at Jack, excitement shining in her eyes. "Did you know these flowers only appear once a year? It's like the tree is reminding us to appreciate the beauty before everything changes. Are you enjoying the story so far? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any stories like this one." Jack watched her, fascinated. It was remarkable how she found meaning in the little things. In a world where he always sought the grand and spectacular, Emily made him see the extraordinary in the everyday. He was so lost in his thoughts that he almost didn't notice when she turned to him, holding a flower between her fingers. "Look, Jack, this is one of my favorites," she said, smiling as she offered him the flower. "Life is full of fleeting moments and we need to cherish them." As he looked at the delicate flower in his hand, Jack felt a wave of appreciation for her. He thought about his own life, marked by pressures and expectations, and how he often overlooked what truly mattered. Instead of focusing on fitting into the standards society imposed, here was Emily, challenging him to slow down and appreciate the present. Later that week, they went to an art exhibition. Emily, with her contagious enthusiasm, guided Jack through the paintings, commenting on each piece with a passion that captivated him. "Look at this one. The artist captures the essence of the human struggle. It's like he's telling all of our stories," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. Jack felt inspired. The way Emily talked about art, connecting it to life experiences, made him realize that she had a wisdom that went beyond appearances. He began to admire her thoughts and insights, and a new dimension of her started to unfold. Every shared laugh and every deep conversation led him to see that there was so much more to Emily than he had imagined. In a more intimate moment, while sharing an ice cream at a small kiosk, Jack saw her get lost in the memory of a past summer. "It was a time when I felt free, without worries about what others thought," she said, her eyes distant. "It was just me and my friends enjoying every moment without looking back." Hearing her story, Jack realized the weight she carried. He saw that the insecurities she faced made her even stronger. It was in her vulnerability that she found strength, and this touched him deeply. On impulse, he took her hand, and as he looked into her eyes, he saw a beauty that transcended any superficial expectations. In that moment, the unexpected connection between them began to blossom. Jack realized that he was falling in love with the woman he had once thought of only as overweight. Now she was so much more than that. She was a vibrant soul, full of passion and authenticity. As the sun set behind the trees, casting a warm glow on their faces, Jack understood that this journey was leading him to a place where true beauty shines, beyond appearances. As time passed, Jack began to feel changes within himself. What had once seemed like an uncomfortable challenge was now becoming a journey of self-discovery. Each encounter with Emily not only deepened their connection, but also led him to question his beliefs and prejudices. He was transforming, and with each passing day, it became more evident. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through a street fair, Jack had an epiphany. He watched the colorful stalls, filled with smiling people, and felt a joy he hadn't experienced in a long time. Emily was beside him, laughing and joking with a vendor who was trying to convince them to try a local delicacy. Her eyes were full of enthusiasm, and he found himself smiling without even realizing it. "You know, Jack," she began, as they picked out some snacks, "life is made of simple moments. Sometimes we forget that and get lost in the rush." Her words echoed in his mind. For so long, Jack had allowed himself to be consumed by the pressure to succeed and fit into society's standards. He realized that while he had been focused on maintaining appearances and meeting others' expectations, he had neglected what truly mattered: authenticity and genuine connections with the people around him. That same week, he decided to try something new. Inspired by how Emily valued life, Jack signed up for a cooking class. He had never cooked much beyond the basics, but something inside him wanted to explore and challenge himself. When he told Emily about signing up, she was thrilled, her eyes shining with excitement. "That's amazing, Jack. I can't wait to taste your creations," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious. With Emily's support, Jack started experimenting in the kitchen, and with each dish he prepared, he not only had fun, but also gained confidence. He began to see himself differently, realizing that his ability to create something delicious reflected his own journey of transformation. With every dish, he was shaping not just the food, but also the person he was becoming. The conversations they shared over meals became precious moments. Emily always brought new ingredients and recipes, and together they explored flavors and textures, laughing and enjoying themselves. Jack felt lighter, freer, and a new perspective was forming. He was learning to love himself, to appreciate every part of who he was, just as he was beginning to admire Emily in ways he had never imagined. Over time, he realized that his connection with Emily wasn't just about attraction, it was a partnership. She challenged him to be better, to dream bigger, and to face his insecurities. Jack was moving away from the superficiality that once governed him and toward a place where true happiness resided. One night, while they were watching a movie on the couch, he turned to her, his heart pounding. "Emily, you make me want to be a better person. I never thought someone could influence me like this." She smiled, a look of understanding in her eyes. "And you make me see the beauty in simple things, Jack. I feel like we're learning together." In that moment, Jack realized that the transformation he was undergoing was much deeper than he had imagined. It was a journey of self-discovery and acceptance, driven by Emily's presence in his life. He was freeing himself from the constraints of the past and opening up to a future full of possibilities, where love and authenticity were the true guides. As Jack delved deeper into his relationship with Emily, a shadow began to loom over his happiness. The weight of expectations, which had once seemed distant, now drew closer, making him question his decision to be with a woman who didn't fit the standard he had always sought. One night, after a wonderful dinner he had prepared with Emily's help, Jack found himself looking in the mirror, evaluating himself with a critical eye. What will people think? The question echoed in his mind like a repeated mantra. He remembered his friends and colleagues, their glances and laughs, always wondering if they would accept his new life. Jack's phone beeped, and a message from Mike appeared on the screen. "So, how's the challenge going? Have you married the fat woman yet?" The tease, though meant as a joke, cut like a knife. Jack hesitated, anxiety growing inside him. He didn't want Mike or anyone else to judge him for his choices, but the thought of disappointing others tormented him. In the following weeks, doubts began to haunt him. He found himself thinking about how people around him would react. The friends who always told him to keep a standard, who criticized anyone who didn't fit the ideal mold. Jack remembered the conversations where he bragged about his previous relationships, always emphasizing the appearance and status of his partners. How can I introduce Emily? How will I explain this to them? One time, while talking with some friends at a party, Jack couldn't avoid the topic coming up. They laughed about relationships and the typical search for the perfect princess. A friend's comment, saying that you shouldn't settle for less than you deserve, echoed in his mind like a warning. He felt an overwhelming pressure to conform to these expectations, and for a moment his mind wavered. That night he came home and saw Emily waiting for him in the living room. Her smile was warm, but Jack felt a knot in his stomach. He sat down next to her, trying to hide the turmoil inside. "How was the party?" she asked. Noticing his tense expression, Jack hesitated, the words stuck in his throat. He wanted to be honest, but the fear of hurting her held him back. "It was good, just a bit different." The response was vague, and he knew Emily sensed it. The unease grew, and he felt torn between the woman he was learning to love and the weight of society's expectations. As the days passed, Jack realized that the pressure wasn't just coming from others. It was also an internal battle. He questioned himself. Am I doing the right thing? Am I being fair to her? The doubt turned into a storm that threatened his new reality. One morning, as they were walking together, Jack decided to open up. Emily, do you think people will judge us? That they'll look at us and only see the differences? His voice was filled with uncertainty. She stopped, looking into his eyes with a sincerity that made him feel vulnerable. Jack, what matters is what we feel for each other. Other people's opinions don't define our worth, and I don't care what they think. Her words touched him, but the insecurity still lingered. The internal struggle between the genuine feelings that were growing and the weight of society that still haunted him became a daily battle. Jack knew he needed to confront these expectations, not just to feel free, but also to be fair to Emily. The journey that had started as a simple challenge was now transforming into a quest for self-understanding and acceptance, a struggle he needed to face so that love could fully blossom. As the sun set, painting the sky a deep orange, Jack and Emily decided to have a picnic at a local park. The place was filled with families and couples smiling and enjoying the moment. As they settled on the grass, Jack began to feel a slight anxiety dissipate. Emily's presence always had that effect on him. With a basket full of sandwiches and fruit, they sat on a checkered blanket, and the conversation flowed naturally. Jack couldn't help but notice how unique Emily was. Every laugh, every story she told, brought a new sparkle to her eyes. She spoke with contagious passion about her life experiences and dreams, and Jack was captivated by her words. I've always wanted to travel the world and help people in underprivileged communities, Emily said as she picked up a strawberry. I believe everyone deserves a chance at a better life. That's why I'm studying social work. The way she spoke, full of conviction, made Jack's heart race. He realized that it wasn't just her appearance that attracted him. It was the deep humanity she displayed. It was the compassion that came through in her stories, the way she cared about others. He remembered all the times he had seen her engage with strangers, always ready to offer a smile or a word of encouragement. As they talked, Jack shared his own journey and the insecurities that had haunted him. Emily's attention was complete, and she listened with a look of empathy, as if every word he said mattered. He realized that she not only accepted him as he was, but also encouraged him to be a more authentic version of himself. The conversation took a deeper turn, and Emily shared a difficult moment from her childhood when she struggled to feel comfortable in her own skin. Jack felt a tightness in his chest as he listened to her words, and for the first time he understood the weight she carried. Her fight for acceptance and self-esteem made Jack see just how strong and resilient she was. The sunlight filtered through the leaves of the trees, creating dancing patterns on the ground. As he watched Emily, an epiphany settled in his mind. True beauty wasn't about appearance, it was about essence, the soul that shines through experiences and struggles. He saw in her not just a woman, but a warrior who had faced challenges and come out stronger. With his heart full of admiration, Jack felt a wave of emotion. He looked into her eyes and said, Emily, you are an incredible person. Your strength and kindness inspire me. I never thought I'd meet someone who could teach me so much about love and compassion. Her smile lit up her face, and Jack realized that, in that moment, there was no more room for doubts or insecurities. What had once been a challenge was now a discovery, a journey that was leading him to understand the true meaning of love. And as they continued to talk under the golden sky, Jack knew he had found something rare and precious in Emily, a beauty that went beyond the physical and was rooted deep within her soul. As the days turned into months, the bond between Jack and Emily blossomed into a love that defied all the expectations he had once held. With each meeting, each conversation, Jack found himself more drawn to her magnetism. It was as if the barriers he had built over the years were slowly melting away, making room for something new and beautiful. One evening, as they walked along a trail by a lake, Jack stopped to take in the view. The sky was full of stars, reflecting on the calm surface of the water. He turned to Emily, who was admiring the scene with a smile on her lips. In that moment, he felt an uncontrollable urge to move closer, to connect with her on a deeper level. Do you remember the first time we met? Jack asked, a playful smile on his lips. I was so nervous and you seemed so confident." Emily laughed, her eyes shining under the starlight. "Yes, and I remember you were so tense it looked like you might break at any moment." They both laughed, and as their hands intertwined, Jack realized that this simple gesture was loaded with meaning. He felt a genuine happiness being with her, a joy that transcended the insecurities that had once consumed him. The connection they had grown was real, and he could no longer ignore what he felt. In the following meetings, Jack began to open up in ways he had never imagined. He shared his fears, his hopes, and even his most secret dreams. Emily, with her understanding and loving nature, listened attentively, offering support and affection. It was a safe space where he could be authentic, without fear of judgment. As time went on, Jack found himself thinking of Emily not just as a partner, but as someone who completed him. He was starting to understand that true love isn't just about appearance, but about mutual acceptance and the ability to see yourself in each other. One weekend, they decided to spend a day exploring a nearby town. They walked through the streets, visited small shops, and enjoyed lunch at a cozy cafe. As they watched the city's hustle and bustle, Jack felt a wave of contentment. It was as if they were weaving memories into the fabric of their lives. In that moment, while sharing a dessert, Jack looked at Emily and found himself reflecting on how she had changed his life. "You're such a special person, Emily," he said, the sincerity clear in his voice. "You've made me see the world differently, and I'm so grateful to have you by my side." Her eyes sparkled and a gentle smile formed on her lips. "Jack, I feel the same way. You've brought me joy and taught me to be more myself." As their feelings grew, Jack realized that his concern about what others thought had faded away. The love he felt for Emily wasn't just acceptable, it was essential. He admired her for her courage, her authenticity, and everything she represented. The connection they had built was deep and unshakable, a love that flourished despite the circumstances. And in a moment of pure vulnerability, Jack realized he was truly in love with Emily. The word love didn't just dwell in his heart, it pulsed through every fiber of his being. He knew that this journey was just beginning, and that together, they could face any challenge that came their way. At its core, the genuine love they shared had become a powerful force, capable of transforming their lives forever. On a quiet afternoon, as Jack and Emily were preparing a small gathering at their home, there was an air of joy and anticipation. They had invited a few close friends for a relaxed dinner, and Jack was excited to show everyone how much his life had changed since meeting Emily. The smell of spices and dishes he had prepared filled the house, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. As they set the table, Jack noticed that Emily seemed a bit distant. She was quieter than usual, and her eyes frequently drifted to her phone. However, he attributed it to the nerves of hosting their friends and tried not to dwell on it. The guests began to arrive, and the evening quickly turned into a celebration filled with laughter, conversation, and good food. Jack felt increasingly confident as he shared moments with Emily and their friends. But as the night went on, he noticed that Emily's restlessness seemed to grow. It was during a break between courses that one of their friends, Sarah, casually remarked, "Hey Emily, you never told me about your trip to Europe last year. I saw some amazing photos on social media." Jack saw Emily's expression change instantly. He noticed that the comment made her visibly uneasy. Emily hesitated, her eyes downcast, and Jack wondered if there was more to this story that she hadn't shared. "Oh yes, it was a wonderful trip," Emily replied, forcing a smile. "Just some vacation time." The conversation continued, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more. Later that night, after most of the guests had left, Jack decided to confront Emily about her unease. "Emily, can I ask you something?" He began cautiously. "You seemed a bit nervous during dinner. Is everything okay?" She sighed, looking at the floor, and Jack felt a knot in his stomach. "Jack, I don't know how to tell you this. I have a secret I've never shared, and I really don't want it to change the way you see me." The tension in the air was palpable. Jack encouraged her to continue, his heart pounding. "Emily, whatever it is you can tell me, I want you to be honest with me." With a hesitant gesture, she sat down on the couch and Jack joined her. "The truth is, I'm more than just an ordinary woman. I come from a wealthy family. My father is a successful businessman, and for most of my life I grew up with all the comforts that wealth can offer. Jack felt his world tilt slightly. He didn't know how to react. He had never imagined that Emily had such a different background from his own. A mix of surprise and confusion washed over him. "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" he asked, trying to process the information. "Because I don't want people to see me just as the rich girl," she replied, emotion clear in her voice. "I want people to see who I really am, not what I have. I had to fight to find my place in this world, and I didn't want you to feel pressured by that. What I value most is the love and connections we've built, not the wealth that surrounds me." Her words touched him deeply, and he realized that despite the revelation, his feelings for her hadn't changed. He still admired her for her authenticity and the strength with which she faced others' expectations. The revelation about her wealth didn't diminish the love that had grown between them. On the contrary, it added a new dimension to their relationship. "Emily," he said, holding her hand, "this doesn't change anything for me. What matters is who you are, not what you have. I love you for what you represent, not for your wealth." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and Jack knew they had overcome an important obstacle. The unexpected discovery about her wealth not only challenged his perceptions, but also reinforced what truly mattered in their relationship: the genuine connection they had built together, based on love, acceptance, and honesty. As they embraced, Jack realized that their journey was just beginning, with new horizons and challenges ahead, but always together. After Emily's revelation about her wealth, Jack found himself in a whirlwind of emotions. That night, after Emily went to get ready for bed, he was left alone in the softly lit living room. Sitting on the couch, he looked out the window at the bright moon, reflecting his inner confusion. His thoughts began to flow like a rushing river. Jack revisited the day he accepted Mike's challenge. He remembered his initial attitude, the laughs he shared with his friends, and the superficial way he viewed relationships. He had no idea that this journey would take him to such a deep, transformative place. As time went on, he realized that his feelings for Emily were sincere and genuine, but he couldn't ignore the spark of regret beginning to form in his chest. Why did I accept that challenge, he wondered, troubled by the memory of his initial motivations. Back then, he thought he could prove something to himself, a test that would make him feel more evolved. But now, looking at the reality he had built, he felt guilty for having approached everything so lightly. Emily's words echoed in his mind. "I didn't want you to feel pressured." How could he have been so blind? Instead of being guided by a genuine desire to connect, he had entered this journey with such a narrow perspective. Jack thought about how many times he had let fear and pride dictate his choices. He had been so caught up in others' opinions that he almost missed the chance to experience true love. He remembered all the moments they had shared, the deep conversations and spontaneous laughter. He had learned so much about himself and what it meant to love someone. Emily wasn't just a challenge. She was a strong, independent, and caring woman. Someone who inspired him to be a better version of himself. This realization made him question whether he truly saw her as she deserved to be seen, or if he was still struggling against external expectations. This reflection led him to understand that love shouldn't be a competition or about social acceptance. He realized that for too long he had been guided by a distorted concept of happiness and success, shaped by what society expected of him. Now he was discovering that true happiness lay in authenticity, vulnerability, and the ability to love without reservations. As the clock ticked slowly, Jack knew he needed to open up to Emily. She deserved to know that he was aware of his flaws and that he was committed to changing. He wanted her to know that despite his initial intentions being influenced by a challenge, the love that had blossomed was real and unshakable. Determined, Jack stood up and walked toward the bedroom. He knew he still had much to learn, but he was determined to be a partner who valued her for who she truly was. And as he prepared to talk to Emily, a new hope was born within him. He was ready to leave the past behind, ready to build a future where love, understanding, and acceptance would be the foundation of their relationship. The next morning, Jack woke up with a clarity he hadn't felt in a long time. The sun streamed through the window, bathing the room in a golden light. As he looked at Emily sleeping beside him, a deep sense of gratitude washed over him. He realized that he was about to have a conversation that would change the course of their lives forever. Carefully, Jack got up and prepared a simple breakfast, but with all the care and affection he felt. He wanted to create a special moment, a space where he could be vulnerable and honest. As the water boiled and the aroma of coffee filled the air, he reflected on all the lessons he had learned since meeting Emily. What had started as a mere challenge had now become a true adventure of love and self-discovery. When Emily woke up, the smile on her face lit up the room. "You're the best, Jack," she exclaimed, sitting down at the table. Jack smiled, his heart racing at seeing her so happy. During breakfast, he took a deep breath, deciding it was time to open up. "Emily," he began, "I need to be honest with you about something that's been bothering me. I entered this relationship with you with a mindset that didn't reflect what truly matters. I accepted a challenge, and I didn't realize that it would lead me to such a deep love." Emily stopped eating, her eyes fixed on his, full of understanding. "Jack, I know you've been struggling with this, and I appreciate that you're willing to talk about your insecurities." He continued, the words flowing with sincerity. "I've realized that what I truly value is so much more than I ever expected. You've taught me that true love isn't about standards or society's expectations, but about the genuine connection we've created. Your beauty, your strength, and your kindness have shown me that what really matters is what we have inside of us." As Jack spoke, he felt a wave of emotion. "I want to be someone who values you for who you are, not for what you represent. Your worth goes beyond your appearance or your family. It resides in your heart and soul. And I regret not seeing that from the beginning." A tear rolled down Emily's cheek, and Jack was overwhelmed with a deep desire to protect her. She smiled, gently touching his hand. "Jack, I never expected you to be perfect. I just wanted you to be true with me, and you're doing that now. That's what matters." The conversation flowed, filled with promises of honesty and love. Jack realized that there was incredible strength in vulnerability and humility. He now understood that true wealth was in the experiences they shared, the memories they created together, and the way they supported each other. As the day went on, Jack and Emily went for a walk in the park. As they strolled hand in hand, he felt light, as if he had finally broken free from the chains that had held him back. Life around him seemed more vibrant. The flowers, the trees, and the laughter of children playing enveloped him in a blanket of joy. Jack realized that there was something transformative about love. It not only connected him to Emily, but also to himself. By embracing humility and recognizing the true value of the people around him, he was becoming the best version of himself. He was ready to face any challenge, no longer out of competition or for acceptance, but for the simplicity of genuine love. And as he looked at Emily, his heart overflowed with love and gratitude. Life, which once seemed full of expectations, was now of rich and authentic experiences. He knew that regardless of what the future held, the love he had found with Emily would change his life forever. And with a smile on his face, he took her hand and let himself be carried by the beauty of the moment, eager to discover what else life had in store for them together. What would you do if you were in Emily's place after discovering you were part of a bet? Would you still stay with Jack? Leave a comment below if you would, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any stories like this one.